Hello and welcome everyone. This is the Collegiate Chess League Spring 2026 season, Division 1, Week 4. We've got two Titan teams up ahead going at it. This is University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley versus University of Missouri at Columbia, also known as Mizzou. And I think Mizzou is going to be the favorite in this matchup. They are the #1 seed overall going into this season. But they did have a rough playoffs last season, so they've got a bit of a chip on their shoulder, perhaps a little something to prove. They've added some players to their roster, but of course they have their Aryan Tari joining again, although currently they're board 2 by rating, only behind Mihail Boyer, who is coming back from last season as well. University of Texas, they've got some heavy hitters themselves. On their top board, they've got Gleb Duden, also known as the Mighty Chinchilla, also known as the Woodland Magic. So we'll see how Gleb can do against Mizzou's top boards. And Texas also has a couple other returning players. There's Jacob Fuss. I know I'm probably mispronouncing that. There's Jose Cardoso. And their bottom board is Santiago Avila Pavas. So all very strong players. The other players from Mizzou, who I haven't mentioned, there's Isik Chan, and there's Amilal Monkdalai. If you guys know the players, then you should teach me how to say their names, because I haven't heard them, I don't think. How do I get the magical nickname? For Gleb Duden, that's his chess.com username. So you'll see it once they start their games. They should be ready to start any minute now. These teams were actually scheduled to compete, I believe, the following week, but they rescheduled. So we've got ourselves a Friday matchup today. Quite the treat, because these teams, they typically will play over the board in a lot of events on the weekends. I know probably a few of these players might have competed last weekend here in St. Louis at the St. Louis Masters. I actually ran into at least two of the Mizzou players, but here we go. Without shorter ado, we do have liftoff here. So let me show you guys the games that we've got going on. Here we've got Fus versus Aryan Tari, perhaps the most well-known player in the Collegiate Chess League. Also, shout out to Uncle Jesse and Bauer tuning in today. Appreciate it. This is a 5+2 time control. There are going to be 4 rounds unless it's tied, in which case we will see overtime. I have a feeling Mizzou's going to win this, though. I have a hunch, but UTRGV can impress for sure. So it's going to be close. We'll see what happens. But Aryan Tari, very strong player, not even board 1 today. This is board 2 for Mizzou. At 3,045. Grandmaster from Norway. At the top board for Mizzou today, this is Mihail. From France. So here we've got 2 grandmasters going at it. Mihail's playing against the board 4 from UTRGV, Grandmaster Santiago Avila Pavas. Yeah, Aryan Tari is a student at University of Missouri. So they are indeed in college. And here we've got the UTRGV top board, Woodland Magic, and they're playing against Daffodil Chess, Amilal, who I believe we interviewed earlier this season. Maybe it was week 1. but Amilal is from Mongolia, I believe. First time in the US, which is very cool. And yeah, that's the Woodland Magic username right there. So top board from UTRGV, also over 3,000. We've got 3 players in this matchup over 3,000. And I see the last game has also started underway here from Grandmaster Isik from Turkey up against the big boss. That's Jose Cardoso. Isik just putting pawns on b3 and e3, finally going c4. Pretty symmetrical, to be honest. Look at these guys. Castles, castles. d4. Are we going to see d5 to keep the symmetry? Probably not. We see a capture. Probably pawn takes there. But no, knight takes. And now d5. So electing to take with the pieces, I'm assuming if d takes c4, bishop takes, otherwise you're going to be left with a stranded c-pawn. So we see the pieces are in the center, the pawns are staying back on the third rank. But yeah, completely even pawn structure here for both sides. These bishops are very ideally placed on the long diagonals. And we see black expanding on the queen side. So nice space advantage there from black. White kind of conceding the center, not taking with the pawns as well, taking with the pieces. So the pawns are pushing the pieces back. But all in all, still a very even position here. Let's take a look at the Arjen Tari matchup here from Norway. So we've got a bit of a pin on this knight. Knight can always move back. This queen's also unprotected, so knight a5 could even be a move. Black's maybe threatening b5. Yeah, knight a5 is played. It's kind of awkward, but also puts pressure on the knight. So if you went to d2, black could decline the queen trade, and your knight would be a little bit more passive here. So ultimately, we do get the queen trade. Knight finds its way to b3. And Tari just bringing his second rook onto the c-file. We see the knight does now go down to d2, potentially looking at e4, c4, probably not f3. So you don't want your knight to be boxed out by the f-pawn. But definitely likes the options from d2 better here. Okay, the kings are moving in. Yeah, neither side really forcing the issue. 3 pawns here for Arjen on the queen side. 2 pawns for white. Okay, e3 making space for the king. The kings are moving up. It's a little early, honestly, but the queens have been traded off. There's still a lot of material left on this board. Only 1 pawn for each side has been traded off. There's still 2 minor pieces, 2 rooks. It's dead even material. Black maybe has a little bit more space here in the center. Definitely a better king position in the middle there. But some pawns are going to have to be pushed to make progress here. And there we see it, f5 from Arjen, getting a pawn duo there. Maybe creating space for the bishop as well. Let's take a look. This position, it's a little even. Let's find something that has perhaps some more imbalance, something a little bit more interesting here. So, okay. Here it looks like black is up a piece. So something went wrong here for white. Let's see. There was a knight perhaps sacrificed. Okay, g4. And the move apparently is g takes h5 here for white, which they found. They sack the knight here. Now h takes with check. And now the move here is h5. Played, knight takes. And here's where things maybe got a little messy. e5 is the move. e5 to bring the bishop back to d3, threatening the knight. Instead, the bishop went forward. And here we have the position. So this knight is covering g4, but bishop back to g4 is still a strong move. Maybe you're allowing the rook into e2, but I think that might just be fine. So it's a knight for a pawn. Definitely an interesting imbalance. Opposite side castles. Annoying pawn on b3 for sure, but bishop pair for white. Very strong bishops. And yeah, rook pinning the knight to the king. It's also pretty annoying. The knight's defended by the other knight as well. So even pinning this pawn, there's still some defense. Okay, and we see an exchange sacrifice here. Rook takes on e6. So this is looking like Mihail should be able to convert here. Queen steps up, and the best move here apparently is rook to h2, guarding e2. Takes here with the tempo on the rook. Black says if you want a rook, go ahead and take. Your choice. Whoa. White says I'm going to sack my rook. And computer hates this. It hates this move. So that's a check, so it's very forcing. Right, you can't block with the bishop. That's just going to be free material. So you take with either the knight or with the pawn. So they take with the knight. White takes the rook, and now the rook enters here. I'm not sure where this rook's going, to be honest. Less than 30 seconds for Santiago. Now less than 20 seconds. There we go. Check, rook entering, and with the bishop combo, this is going to be devastating. Deadly move here. White can promote, actually, which is ridiculous, but black's going to take the queen. Also, you can't take back because there'd be some issues. So yeah, we're threatening some devastating discoveries, double checks, and yeah, like rook here is actually just mate in one. So we see resigns. No time to promote. You're getting attacked. And here, if we do queen takes, there's bishop takes with check. King takes is only legal move, and then that's going to be mate in two. All right. First game in the books. Top board from Mizzou, getting the job done. Let's check out some of these other boards here. Here we've got Gleb Duden. They're playing the board for Amilal, and it's looking good for Amilal. International Master, board 4 for Mizzou. Anytime the fourth board can get points against the top board in that first round, that is really good news. So Mizzou here has a big opportunity to build onto their early lead here. That being said, Amilal is under a minute on the clock to about 2 minutes for Gleb Duden. So this game is far from over. In fact, bishop takes c4. Black has the bishop pair. They could cash it in right now. Amilal has the pawn advantage, but having to take back on c4 is going to give us double isolated pawns. Those are going to be stranded, and it's going to be essentially even. Although going into this dark square bishop endgame, notice these pawns are all on dark squares. These pawns are all on light squares. So this could be the more valuable bishop. Your bishop is going to be staring at its own pawns. Black decides not to trade just yet. Instead, asks a question, perhaps to the knight. Although, to be fair, this queen is already supporting, so it's not like there's going to be this trade now. Like, it doesn't really change anything other than your queen having to move again. But maybe it ties down the queen to stay in defense, but nope, we see the queen say sayonara, goodbye. You can feel free to take twice. So I'm expecting black to do that. I would be surprised if they did anything else. Maybe we go back to the Ariantari game, and we do see now there is a piece advantage still for black, right? Wait, that was... So this knight got sacked after b5, c4, knight takes. So that was a discovery on the knight. So Ariantari making some progress here. Wow, e4, blowing up the center, giving up a pawn, but damaging white's structure. The rook infiltrates now, picking up that bishop. And it looks like white's going to try to hold for a draw, and they're going to get it. So there was a mistake here from Ariantari. Needed rook f4 check. Went the wrong way. And now the h-pawn is running. Both players less than 20 seconds on the clock. There is that 2-second increment. Couple checks here, but the king finds shelter on g4. No more checks. And this is a runaway pawn. Black brings the rook back. And probably the bishop might need to help as well. We could see the pawn get pushed. Hey, Cristobal. Oh, and that's a blunder, apparently. g4. King's running back. 2 seconds. 1 second. Gotta move. Oh my god, 2.3 seconds. And look at that pawn go. Look at that bishop covering the promotion. Yeah, that was misplayed there. And Ariantari is going to get the job done for Mizzou. We do have a draw between Amilal and Gleb. That gives us one last game here. So big point for Ariantari and a draw for Mizzou's board 4. That's going to give them a 2-point lead with 1 game remaining. And this is looking like slight edge for black, and it doesn't like that move. So we have bishop pair versus a knight. Both players with less than 30 seconds. Black has a pawn advantage and is looking for a queen trade. And they might just get it. And then the king is going to infiltrate. I wonder if queen here. Yeah, white leaving the queen on the board for now. But this is looking like a pretty forcing trade. Maybe not. Bishop steps up. Less than 10 seconds for Isak. Isak trying to hold on to a significant lead for the Mizzou team. But even if Isak loses... Whoa, looking for this trade here. Bishop steps up saying, if you take me, I'm going to get that. And isn't f5 really bad? I don't know. I guess not. Look at this pawn pushing through. Oh my god, that's a Botez gambit. That's going to be resigns. Yeah, suffocating position from Jose Cardoso. So UTRGV, they do get a point on the board. They're only down by 1. Mizzou up after round 1, 2.5 to 1.5. Here we go to round 2. We've got Mihail versus Yakub. Mihail now with the white pieces. We've got all 4 games underway. Here we've got Ariantari now with white playing against the Sicilian from Santiago. And c3. This is what I like to play on move 2, the Alpin. A c3 Sicilian helps with d4 here. So I'm curious to see how Aryan's going to play with this. Perhaps threatening d5 right now. Wow, captures and doesn't take with the pawn. This is certainly new for me here. Looking for a knight trade. Maybe leaving that d file open for the queen helps influence the d5 pawn push. So that'll be very interesting. Joss Will RR, thanks for the follow. Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, Aryan loves the time that they're saving. Still with over 5 minutes on the clock. This is move 7. We see Santiago, board 4 from Texas, thinking a bit here. And we do see knight takes. And here you have to take with a pawn, because the only other piece you could take with was the queen. So that was defended. We see the knight stepping in, helps keep an eye out for d5. White maybe had a chance to push d5, but not quite yet. So bringing out the knight, we see black castles. White perhaps looking to bring the bishop out along the diagonal, maybe trying to trade the bishop for the fiend cutout. I love going bishop to g5, pins the knight for just a little bit. Maybe we induce a pawn push, but otherwise just getting the queen behind the bishop, going to h6, looking for that trade. But right now it is black's turn, so black has to decide. Right now white has three pieces controlling d5. If black pushes, they also have 3 pieces on d5, but you always have to consider the potential trades or the potential decline of trades. If white were to trade, they could be left with the isolated queen pawn, so we do see the e5 pawn advance, taking up some space in black's half of the board and near that king side, definitely dulling the diagonal of the bishop. And yeah, just keeping the center locked, grabbing more space. We could see this bishop develop now. Hey Rivals guy, how's it going? Hey Fisher, good to see you. Yeah, I'm not playing, but I agree that I can win as well. In fact, I would say that we all win when we're watching some high-level chess. And that's exactly what we have here today. So, always a pleasure to watch and witness great teams competing in the Collegiate Chess League. All right, let's take a look at the big boss. This is Jose, the only winner from Texas in that first round. And it looks like Amilal, they've got some passed pawns here. Well, I guess both sides technically have passed pawns. The computer here is favoring white, and only with the move d4, just striking in the center. Notice how white has already castled. Black has yet to castle. So black has some makeup work to do here in their development. And this pawn structure, you always want to attack the base of the pawn structure. That's going to weaken the structure. That's going to make the pawns easier to attack down the road. So when you get these passed pawns, they can become weaknesses. They can become liabilities. And we see Jose immediately going for this top move, d4. And it looks like Amilal had something prepared for this. Queen a5 was played relatively quickly. This is offering some extra support over c5, also just developing a piece. We do see Jose grabs on c5, and here we get skewered. But this pawn is luckily still on e2, so the rook is protected. And the computer's saying the best move is queen h4. Jose finds it almost instantaneously. If you take my pawn, I'm going to hit you with a tempo, helping develop my rook. So yeah, right now this pawn is under attack twice. Maybe if you don't take it, we're going to push, right? Bishop takes, pawn push with tempo. that could be a problem. So queen takes c5 is played. E-pawn is left alone for now. Bishop e3, again developing with tempo. And every move with tempo that you can make is a move that black can't castle. And that's going to be annoying. So here we see instead of going to e3, we're going to f4 with a different tempo, hitting the rook. This does allow for e5, sort of a counterattack. But after e5, notice our rooks are connected now. We have an intermezzo with rook c1 potentially, or we can still do this bishop e3 idea. Give you bits, please. Are you currently live streaming right now? I don't have any bits to give, unfortunately. Hey, what's up, Faye? I was thinking about you, Faye, because we're watching Faye's alma mater, her former school, University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. So they're down by 1 right now. But yeah, I should send you their full season schedule. This is currently week 4. They'll be playing again this weekend, tomorrow actually, if you would like to tune in. We're actually going to watch Mizzou against another Texas team tomorrow. They're going to be playing against UT Dallas tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern. That's 1 p.m. Central Time, local time. How do you get bets? You have to buy them from Twitch. Okay, rook f to c1, the intermezzo. Honestly, Jose's thought a lot on this move. Down to a minute 20. Quick response here from Amilal. So white is definitely doing better in the position, but Jose is using a ton of time. Down to a minute here. Oh my goodness. Look at this move. Putting both minor pieces at risk of the pawn. So this pawn is pinned to the rook. If you take my knight, I'm taking your rook. Now, if you take my bishop, I want to play knight to c6, hitting the queen, hitting the rook. Or, you know, sometimes you like knight f5. So yeah, this is my thought process here. Take one knight, go ahead, take the rook. I'm going to take your bishop back. That's 2 minor pieces for 1 rook. Usually the minor pieces are more valuable than the rook. So white does get a pawn, and it looks like they're going to try to take a second pawn. White's leaving the e-pawn hanging by both bishop and queen. So yeah, definitely a very interesting imbalance that Jose decided to go for here. And I think Amilal is happy to just get castled. And yeah, they might trade pawns here. This will be remaining on the board, the A pawn. That's an outside pass pawn. That's definitely going to be a very valuable piece going into the end game. This bishop also a very dominant piece. This knight, not a lot of options here. So queen takes on e2. Now probably we take on b4. And taking on b4 with the queen actually threatens to just take the knight. Black's going to have some back rank issues. So queen takes would come with a tempo. We see rook takes instead, giving us potential to perhaps double rooks, leaving the queen just really well placed in the center here. I think, yeah, knight d7 makes sense. Knight b to d7, just connecting the knights, developing that last minor piece, getting it back off the back rank. And this bishop and knight, they're doing some good work here, controlling these entrances for the rook. And the queen's also defending this bishop. But we could see the queen maybe put some pressure on the bishop. Maybe the rook is going to come back and hit the queen. Okay, knight stepping in. And apparently there's this idea, queen d1, just trying to trade. Knight here is going to be annoying, right? So that would be a fork against the rook. So we see rook stepping back to b3, helping control a bit of d3. The knight, I think, could still go there. But actually, yeah, knight here hits the rook and the pawn. I was thinking maybe bishop f1. The queen does defend here. So bishop f1 actually could be a big issue. In fact, after this, takes and here, why is this not the move? I don't know. What's wrong with bishop f1 there? I guess just queen here, maybe? Okay. Anyways, we do see rook d3. Rook d3, and still I felt like bishop f1 is a move. It's still a move right now. Both sides super low on time, but white finds it. This is going to be a big win for UTRGV. All the other games are also in time scrambles. Let's take a quick look at Ari and Tari. Tari's got the white pieces. Could have traded queen for 2 rooks. Instead, lets the bishop do the talking there. Forces the rook back. And now the queen enters, gets a free pawn, gets a second pawn, both with check, and a third pawn. So that is a time scramble where black, they get 1 pawn back, but I think you can go ahead and trade queens here, and they do. And you've got 2 minor pieces against a rook. This is going to be really good endgame for white. So Ariantari is looking good. Won in the first round, looking to build onto that here in the second round. Jose does get their second win against Amilal. And we have a draw between Jacob and Mahel. So Jacob gets on the board. Jose improves to 2, which ties it for UTRGV against Mizzou. Pawn push. This helps defend the pawn. If you take this, you're going to get taken on f2. So Santiago is putting up some defense here, but it might run out. Ariantari's got to figure out just how to break through here. Okay, they're giving up the f pawn with check, but they're improving the bishop's position. Black is releasing the f2 square for the second rook, which would threaten the checkmate, by the way. But there are some annoying moves here. Rook is skewering. 2 seconds for Ariantari. He brings the knight back. He gives 1 check. He grabs a pawn. That's going to free up some space for his king. Black's making a pass pawn. They sacked a pawn just to push. There's a check. There's another check. King can step up, but he's going to get checked again. Instead goes here. Bishop check. King over. Maybe king g7 was a move. I guess there was going to be rook f2. Wow, black is getting a queen? Wait, the bishop's there to guard. Oh my goodness. So white has to give up a whole piece. Yeah, black is defending. Ariantari in this time scramble. He's not able. Can we double here? What's happening? Double, and then there's going to be pawn push. Knight steps back, rook over. If the knight was still here, that'd be a mate threat. Knight gets hit. Oh, knight's going here. So king has to put pressure on the rook. Rook has to give up the 7th. Knight check. King steps up. King here looking for pawn check. Also defending the knight. Less than 5 seconds for Santiago. Oh my goodness. Maybe there was h6 check. I don't know. Was there like knight g6? Okay, rook's double, trying to trade off a rook. But that might not be good. Knight here blocks the rook trade. Now we get the pawn push with check. King has to move. 2 seconds. Oh, and that's a blunder. Apparently. King steps aside. The second pawn is on the move now. Rooks are both attacking the knight, but with this rook check, the knight can get out of the way. Also with check, and that's going to leave... Both rooks are hanging. Ariantari, he's going to clinch this one out. Rook to a7 was going to threaten mate, but just the pawn getting the job done anyways. So Ariantari is converting that, and Gleb Dudin beating Isik. So both teams are tied up at 4. So Ariantari also 2 for 2. Gleb Dudin getting their first win after drawing against the board 4 in round 1. So that draw is going to tie things up. So Jose, 2 big wins for the board 2, keeping things tied up here for UTRGV. So Mizzou, they started off round 1 with a 1-point lead. UTRGV answers right back. What's up, Eskia? Shout out to Eskia. Faye, you're gonna have to remind me the mascot for UTRGV again. It's like the Vaqueros. And I apologize if that's not it, but I think that's right. That sounds right. Yes, sir. All right. Well, they tied it, and it's a close match, which is looking good for UTRGV. They're keeping it close. They don't want Mizzou to take it too far. So Ariantari and Jose, both board 2s, are a perfect 2 out of 2 right now. And they will be playing against each other in round 4 after this. Right now we're in round 3. We're in the second half of the match. It's Ariantari versus Gleb Dudin. Gleb just coming off of a win from round 2. The board 1 from UTRGV. Hugo Mesa, thanks for the follow. Welcome. All right, so this is a 4 knights game with d4 and a trade. So knight takes on d4. Both players developing their dark square bishops on the same diagonal. I was looking at knight f5. This move is available because the d pawn hasn't pushed yet. We're attacking this pawn with check, but the king will step over and attack the knight. We're also offering this bishop trade. So if bishop takes, I suspect we won't go for the pawn with check because the king will be attacking our knight and we don't have time to take back. So if bishop takes, I suspect either pawn takes or knight takes. We see knight takes, so white doesn't want to double isolate their e-pawns. And now black castles. So lots of control over d5 right now. Queen steps up, and this tells me that white wants to go for an attack. This is a very aggressive move, going for queenside castles. And we're going to see an all-out attack on both sides of the board. So f3, another indicator that we will not be castling kingside. Here we just are solidifying that e-pawn, this pawn structure, and here we go. Black launching the queenside attack, b5. Just taking space, and now white answers right back. This is like 2 boxers swinging. They're not holding anything back right there. First contact, b5 to b4. Attacking the knight. We see 1 trade of pawns. This gives a semi-open b file for black to work with. Knight taking on b4. There's some checking squares. Queen over to g2. Eval Bar wasn't the fan of that. And a backwards knight move here. And I'm wondering if we can just go h4, g5. Computer likes f4. Ariantari, he goes for h4. This is a very logical move. We want to play g5, and we want to open up that h-file for the rook. Both players just under 4 minutes. This is going to be the game to watch this round, for sure. So we'll keep our eyes on this, but real quick, let's take a check on some of the other positions. We've got Jose, the big boss. This has been the all-star player for UTRGV right now. Has 2 out of 2, half the team's points. keeping the team in it right now. There's a potential attack on d6. It does come with a tempo, so I do think that's the threat. Although the rook is x-raying this pawn, so if this knight moves, the pawn will be defended. So that's exactly what we see. Knight to c5. Now you can't take on d6, but you can trade on c5. What's interesting is this rook is also on the d file. So knight takes opens up this rook, but the problem is black's going to take with the tempo on the queen. But when the queen steps back, there's still some potential to take, although with the queen directly on the d file, rook takes back would hit the queen. So we see the queen going back off the d file, going to c3. Now, notice there is this pin on the knight. Knight is making sure that the black king doesn't get checkmated on g7 with his queen and bishop battery. That being said, the knight could go backwards or even forwards to defend. And white doesn't want to remove the knight because it's going to get replaced by a bishop. So white instead looks like they're going to double on the d file. So now they've got 3 attackers on this pawn. There's only 2 defenders. So black has to address this threat somehow. You could lift the rook to defend. You could bring the queen over. You certainly don't want to take this knight. So we do see the knight go backwards. This bishop maybe is coming, but I think white would gladly take that bishop. Let's take a quick look at some of the other boards. We didn't look at e6 game in the last round, but he did go down, I believe, to Jose. Now playing against Santiago, the board 4. Looks like it's pretty even as far as the pieces go. For the pawn structure, both sides have 2 pawn chains. Black only has these 2 queenside pawns. So yeah, fairly even. Maybe a backwards e pawn that white can target with a semi-open e file. So that could definitely be a weakness. Also, very extended pawns on the king side for black. That could also become a weakness down the road. All right, and the last game we haven't looked at yet, we've got Jakob Fuss versus Amilal. And yeah, white just has a very comfortable space advantage here in the center. Both rooks are pretty equal. We see a4 taking some more space on the queen side, and black really pressing the issue here. G4. This looks like a potential pawn sacrifice. It's only supported once. Pawn takes even comes with a tempo. The thing is knight f6, and now both of these pawns are hanging. So kind of a nice move here from Amilal. Just sort of breaking up the pawn structure a little bit. And if this pawn on e4 falls, then black's going to have 2 pawns in the center to 0. So black has their choice now, either queen takes or knight takes. We do see the knight take. If the queen took, probably this pawn will fall. So the queen's sticking around. Although, to be honest, can't we do that anyways? The answer is yes. So queen takes, knight takes, or queen takes knight. Okay, so yeah, Jakob holding on to that pawn advantage, maintaining a material lead as well as the lead on the clock for sure. Amilal is playing with 30 seconds. They're going to have to be living off that increment. All right, let's bring us back to Ariantari versus Gleb Duden. These are the top. This is the top game we want to keep our eye out. So we had a 4 knights game. Trade here. Opposite side castles. Just all out pawn storm attack from both sides. Bishop to c4, pointing at the king. Queen to e file. Ooh, this was not a good move. It felt like G6. This pawn is just a huge liability. I feel like I would have also been tempted to play F6. But yeah, here having to give the exchange. Wow, queen takes. I feel like we want rook F1 is just going to be a free rook. Oh my goodness. Gleb Duden playing queen E1, queen E7. And that's some valuable tempo here. Rook takes and resigns. Wow. Yeah. If you take here, I mean, takes or takes, I'm sure. Yeah, that's a GG there. So Aryan Tari taking the lead back for Mizzou. And Aryan is a perfect 3 for 3 right now. Let's check in with Jose. This has been UTRGV's best player. They're also trying to go 3 for 3 to follow Aryan Tari, and Jose will be playing Aryan in the next round. So can he join Aryan with 3 out of 3, or will the top board from Mizzou, Mihail, take down Jose? Right now, Jose with the black pieces definitely looks a little bit worse off here. This is an isolated pawn, but it is passed. But this king safety is such a huge issue. This is probably going to be a draw, but in the time pressure, anything can happen. And right now, Mihail is up about 20 seconds. Both players under a minute, but it feels very dangerous for both sides. White could trade rooks if they want to. But probably they don't want to because the king is just so weak. So yeah, both players are around 30 seconds. We see a pawn push. Jose's not moving. Jose could not find a move against G4. So now he finds rook to C8, supporting the pawn. We have another result. Amilal beating Jacob. So that is a big point for Mizzou as well. That's now 2 points in the lead. Black says, let's get these queens off the board. Bring the queen back. And Black's saying, I like my outside pawn. So go ahead and damage my pawn structure all you want. This is a very strong pawn. So White says, I guess I'll have to pass. This queen and rook combo can be deadly. King steps aside here, trying to get off this check. Less than 10 seconds for Mihail. Queen now blockading the pawn. Queen stepping aside, trying to get this queen out of there. 5 seconds. Both players less than 10 seconds. We have a third result. Santiago taking down Isak. So Santiago bringing it back. Queen check here. Queen back. So black was better, but missed something. There was probably this queen check. Oh, and they're going to find it again? No. They just draw. They draw their way. I don't know if Jose knows the situation, but his team is down. They need him. Jose hasn't been beat yet, but that draw does hold him back just ever so slightly. Mihail improves to 2 out of 3. Also hasn't been beat. 1 win and 2 draws. So Mizzou, they get their 1 point lead back. And there's only 1 round remaining unless UTRGV can bring it back and tie it, which they've done before. Can they do it again? Hey, Elwood. Good to see you. What's up, Zoomja? Hi, Lucy. How's it going? Welcome in. We're watching 2 college chess teams competing in the Collegiate Chess League here in Division 1. Mizzou's the #1 rated team, They're up against University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. The Vaqueros versus the Tigers. And here we go. This is the 4th round. If a team gets to 8.5 points here, there will be no more rounds. This is the final round. But if it's tied 8-8, we'll go to overtime. And that will be 3+2 instead of 5+2. So Mizzou, they only need 2 points to win this match. They need to split this round 2-2. So any means necessary. The next 2 points wins for Mizzou. UTRGV, they could win this match with 3 points, but that would be very impressive. That would be hard to do against this Mizzou team. And this is Isik versus Jakob. This is the board 3s going on it. Isik is struggling. Isik has not gotten any points today. They're 0 for 3. And Jakob has also not gotten any wins, but they have gotten 1 draw. This is interesting. They're allowing this queen check, but maybe a queen block. A potential queen trade here. But okay, white didn't do that. After f6, they were not interested. So they played h4 instead, just stopping the h-pawn, but potentially creating a weakness on g4. The knight develops, which helps guard this f7 square as well as keeps an eye forward on g4. So bishop to e2, potentially taking this pawn with check. It's kind of awkward. So the only way to defend this pawn would be with the queen or by moving the knight. You could move the knight to g4, but instead the knight goes back to f7. So this is no longer a check, and this pawn is no longer hanging. Okay. How long was that bishop just hanging there? I guess the queen is pinned, huh? The pawn was pinned to the queen. I missed that. That's kind of funny. Here, inducing f6. So the queen needs to stick around here for this bishop to not be taken. I only just noticed that after bishop e3. So that's kind of interesting. Okay. Anywho, let's take a look at, we've got Jose versus Ariantari now, has just started. The big boss, Jose, the point scorer for UTRGV with 2.5 points, hasn't been beat yet. Ariantari, a perfect 3 for 3 right now. This could be his biggest challenge. Although Aryan did beat Gleb Duden, the top board from Texas. All right, pretty symmetrical here. Lots of potential pawn trades in the center. Hey Manning, how's it going? What's up, Mazdies? Who's the big boss again? This is Jose Cardoso, board 2 for UTRGV. Hasn't been beat yet today. 2.5 out of 3. 2 wins and a draw. They just got a draw against Mihail Boyer, the top board from Mizzou. But now they're up against Ariantari. And it looks like Jose's potentially getting a 3-on-2 majority on the queen side if they decide to push c5 here. But instead just decides to maintain that tension. The computer likes taking on d5. I think we could strand black with an isolated queen's pawn, and that's exactly what we see here. Now, this is not a free pawn. After queen takes, there would be bishop takes check with discovery, so not a free pawn here. Bishop here, looking to get ready to castle, still wouldn't be a free pawn, because instead of bishop takes pawn with check here, there's bishop takes pawn with check on h2. So this pawn doesn't need to be directly defended. It's defended tactically. However, this is still going to be a weakness for black in the long run. So we see bishop developing to e6, gives some extra protection, and we could see this pawn being a massive target for white to pile up perhaps some rooks on the d file and put a lot of pressure on this pawn. So typically, whoever controls the pawn push square, in this case d4, that's the side that is typically favored in the isolated queen pawn positions. So black right now does not have enough support to push that pawn, as white has not one, not two, but three key defenders of d4. That's not even including the bishop that is now opened up to it. We could see this knight going to b6. Probably we'd see the rook move to the d file, because knight on b6 not only hits the rook, but also hits the pawn. Also, with the queen leaving the d file, there's no longer these discovery tactics that work out. So we see instead the knight going to e4, maybe controlling a bit of the c5 square. We see the rook stepping over to the e file. This kind of weakens f2 a little bit. You could see some potential sacrifices in some cases, but probably not here. Not enough for black in the attack right now. So yeah, rook e1 kind of felt a little curious to me. I'm wondering what this knight's doing on a4 and where it wants to go. Okay, h5 from Aryan. Aryan says, let's get the party started, launching that attack, and white just plays g3. This helps save this diagonal a little bit, maybe helps control h4. We do see the rook preemptively going to the d file, and now the knight steps aside. This is putting pressure on that h-pawn, but it's also allowing h4 here from Aryan Tari. This knight was controlling this square. We're looking at potential knight trade, maybe taking the bishop, but taking the bishop is actually going to help black no longer have an isolated pawn and also open up the rook on the f file. And we've moved our rook from the f file, so black should not be worried at all about this knight taking the bishop. In fact, they should sort of be warranting it. It's kind of a double-edged thing, though, because this bishop is a light square bishop, and we've pushed g3. But all this being said, the best move is definitely h4 here, according to the engine, but it makes a lot of sense. And that's exactly what we see from Aryan Tari. So Aryan is getting a positional advantage here now. With a strong attack potentially. Look at all these pieces here, and wow, we see an exchange sacrifice. White grabbing a pawn with a fork, but the queen is saying goodbye to the rook. You're on your own. I'm gonna put everything I have on this g pawn. That's 4 attackers, only 2 defenders. You're gonna see a major collision here. So pawn to f4. This is trying to box that bishop out. No time to take the rook. And here we're going to see probably queen h6 or g6. Something that's going to keep the queen on the king side. I mean, there's no room to sacrifice. Your queen's under attack, so the queen really should move. There's no sacrificing on f4. That's not going to really solve your problem. So Aryan's deciding where the queen wants to go. And yeah, this pawn push is just another weakness. So queen decides to stay on the g file. This bishop's a very important piece, making sure that we're not getting forked by this knight. So white might cash out now and take that rook. But no, instead we see another attacking move on the queen. Queen steps aside to h6 now, and now white takes the rook. Probably just taking back is the most logical move here for Aryan. And now white then has to deal with this problem. King g2 is the first move that comes to my mind. So Jose's technically up 1 pawn. Okay, we have an early draw actually from the board 3s. Isak and Jacob. So Isak gets on the board and says, hey, I'm doing my part. Yeah, there was a queen that was lost in this game somewhere. So bishop takes, rook lifts, rook hits the queen, and Jacob says, I'll take the rook and the minor piece. But yeah, I really liked black after knight takes c3. That's kind of crazy though. Knight takes c3. There's no bishop c5 move. I do not understand this at all. King f7. I mean, okay. Okay. I don't know. Anyways, that wasn't played at all, so we just had a repetition here. So yeah, they take a draw. Very interesting. Okay, let's check on the top boards really quick. Oh my goodness. Gleb Duden is absolutely crushing. Bishop pair versus a lone rook. And look at all that time. That is crazy. That's a pawn you could snag. Probably you don't want the rook in, right? But maybe bishop here. Hit the rook first, then take this. Yeah, this is gonna be ridiculous. Who knows? Yeah, I think white really doesn't want the rook in here, but I say who cares? Yeah, that's exactly what we see. Okay, so this should be converted for Gleb, which is huge for Texas. That's exactly what they need. Meanwhile, oh, Santiago is working Amilal, which is also huge for Texas. So Jacob improves to 1 point. Isak gets on the board. Is it going to be enough? Oh, this is a blunder apparently with the move knight to d5, which is ridiculous. Okay. Check, check. King takes. This is a free rook here. The knight is hanging, but rook takes f2 looks like a strong move. Whoa, wait. King move was a blunder. Apparently, you need the move king f8. Check, check. Oh, and now white blunders back in time pressure. Both sides less than 10 seconds. Check. Rook takes is nice because you're gonna stop. Yeah, so queen here you can promote with check, but you are up 3 pawns to nothing. So that's gonna be a big win for Santiago on board 4. That's going to tie the score at 7-7. And Gleb wins. That's going to give them a lead. It's all down to Jose. We've been saying, and oh my god, Jose is actually crushing. Mizzou's going to choke in this 4th round. They were up by 1. And now I mentioned UTRGV could win with 3 points. Oh my goodness. Ariantari gets baited by the bishop. G takes was completely winning for Aryan. He takes with the queen and then gets hit by rook h2. If you take the free queen, you get mated on h8. Knight hits the queen, but the queen steps back to e2, and we see resignation. Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, UTRGV from behind gets the job done in a massive round 4 clutch, going 3.5 out of 4. And they're led by their board 2, Jose Cardoso, who went 3.5 out of 4. Yeah, winning that 4th round against Ariantari with a beautiful Botez gambit, sacrificing the queen just to move the rook to the h file. So yeah, this was a high risk, high reward maneuver here. After g6, I know a lot of people would probably try to save the bishop to g4, and black is winning in this position, but Jose laying the trap, leaving the bishop on h5, just plays rook e2, and black needs to take with the pawn. G takes, but they take with the queen, and Aryan falls for rook h2. Beautiful end sequence here to get the match win. If Aryan takes with the pawn there, maybe they win and we'd be tied at 8-8 going to round 5 of overtime, but no. Jose Cardoso is not to be beat, leading his team to victory 3.5 out of 4, taking down Ariantari in a dramatic finish there at the end. So Mizzou goes down, but luckily for them, it is still the regular season. What matters most are the playoffs, but UTRGV very happy with this result. Major props to them. What's up, Erud? Good to see you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for me today. I'm going to go eat some food, and I'll see you all hopefully back again tomorrow. We've got some more college chess to be played. In fact, we will be seeing Mizzou back at it against another Texas team, University of Texas at Dallas. That's going to be at 1 o'clock Central Time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern or 11 a.m. Pacific. And if you're not in the U.S. or in one of those time zones, I guess you'll have to figure it out. I'm sorry. Bye, Jesse. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Warbot. This has to be the first for Mizzou. Definitely not 50 Shades. They have lost in the regular season before, and in the playoffs, as we saw last season. But yeah, we'll see if they have a chance of redemption tomorrow, or if they're going to get beat by another Texan team at UT Dallas. So we'll find out tomorrow. I believe we'll also be watching UTRGV again versus another Missouri school, St. Louis University. So yeah, lots of college chess tomorrow. Matches are always Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern default time, but we're going to watch 3 matches tomorrow, starting at 2 Eastern. All right. I'll send you guys off on a raid, so stick around for that. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out. Hope you all have a great rest of your Friday night and weekend. All right, take care of yourselves. Much love. Peace out.